Hello everyone and welcome back to my Osage life. It's been a while since we've done a video, but we continue to get subscribers, so I wanted to set some time aside today and do a video. We also have never done a cooking video before, so we're going to give that a shot today and try to make some meat pies. So today we're going to use an old recipe for meat pies, and it comes from this cookbook that my grandma Gann gave to my mom. It's from the Friends Church in Hominy, Oklahoma, and we're going to use Frances Holding's meat pie recipe because if you're going to do it, you might as well do it right, and this is probably one of the better recipes that you could ever get your hands on. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the dough. And so the recipe calls for one recipe, you need to start with 3 cups of flour. I'm doing mine times 5 because we'll freeze ours and everyone will eat meat pies off and on. So I just like to fill up the freezer. But we'll tell you the recipe for one recipe. So we're going to start with 3 cups of flour.
I really don't want my hair in a ponytail.
You really don't want your hair in a ponytail?
Mm-mm.
The next thing you need is 3 3/4 teaspoons of baking powder. Then you need a teaspoon of salt. Two tablespoons of sugar. Then you sift all of the dry ingredients into your bowl. So I have a sifter. And if you see a little person behind me acting crazy, that's Nettie. She wants to help, but she doesn't want to brush her hair today for some reason. She doesn't feel like it, so we'll see. Okay, the next thing is a cup of buttermilk. You know, when I was a little girl, an Ottaway woman made fry bread with me, and she made her fry bread with buttermilk, which I had never seen before, but it was really good. Okay, and then you'll just need a little bit of warm water in case the buttermilk isn't enough. So all I did was I just kind of rinsed out my buttermilk container. It's still buttermilky water. Okay, so now we have our dough mixed and we're ready to move on to the meat mixture. So for one recipe you need 2 pounds of lean ground beef. I'm doing it times 5, so I'm going to have a lot more than that. But you need 2 pounds of lean ground beef, and what I got was the 93% lean. And then you need a 1/2 pound of beef suet. This is suet. It's just big chunks of fat, basically. And you don't want this kind of stuff in there, so we have to kind of clean it a little bit and cut it up coarsely. Suet is important in your meat pie because it gives it flavor. I don't think all tribes use it. Osages use it. I've had meat pies that other people from other tribes have made, and they're not like ours. Some other people put all kinds of things in their meat pies. Some of it tastes like taco meat. Some of it has potatoes in it. I even had one that had cheese in it, which needless to say, these aren't the healthiest things to if you're on a heart healthy diet. I wouldn't make meat pies anytime soon. they're good. And Osages like them, and we like to eat them. And honestly, you probably aren't going to get through the month of June without meat pies. You know, it's just part of our soul food, I guess, is the word. Part of the food that makes us feel happy and like home. Now when you go to buy suet, if you're anywhere in Osage County, if you're anywhere on the Osage Reservation, then the butcher shops around here will know. They'll know what you're talking about when you go in and tell them you want suet. If you don't live here, then you'll have to explain what it is that you want. If you can get just straight, like plain kidney suet, the fat around the kidneys, then that's like the best thing to get, but I don't think that they always save it that way. When I lived in New Mexico and I wanted to make meat pies, they didn't really know why anybody would want suet. So when I went to the meat market in Grants, New Mexico, it was interesting because I went in and told them what I wanted, and they had it and they gave it to me. And when I asked them how much it was, they said, we don't charge for that. We generally just throw it away. So, I mean, on the Osage Reservation, they save it and they sell it because they know that people make meat pies. But if you're somewhere else, you might get it for no charge, really. And you want it a little bit chunky. You don't want huge chunks in your meat pie, but it's not like a fine minced up kind of thing, because when you bite into a meat pie, you know if you get a chunk of suet in there or not, and you're kind of supposed to. Meat pies are supposed to be a little bit greasy. Not too much, but... And it's funny here because everyone's so used to Osage food that it's not just the Osages that eat meat pies, and it's not just the natives here that eat meat pies. It's the non-Indians actually like them as well now. So when people are needing to make a little extra money or do a fundraiser, a lot of times they'll do a meat pie sale because you can sell a lot of them around here. Okay, so now we're going to do salt and pepper to taste, which I always find that a weird thing to say when it's raw meat. How do you know what it's going to taste like? But kind of give it a shot. And I'm using white pepper because I like white pepper. Now when I was little, the meat pies were pretty peppery. And in recent years they've gotten a little more bland, but I kind of like mine old school. So, and then you want to add a cup of water, a cup of cold water to your meat. It just kind of gives it all the right texture for the meat pie. You can tell when people don't use water in their meat pies. You can definitely tell the difference. So now we have the dough mixed and we have the meat mixed, and now we're going to put it all together. Okay, this is the part I'm not so good at. Is getting this thing nice and round. Really. And there's a definite trick that I think it's probably just like trial and error, but there's a definite... The dough is kind of important. The dough is pretty important. You can tell if it's not good dough. And you can tell if there's too much dough. If you take a bite of a meat pie and it's like the first 2 bites is just bread, then somebody's missed the mark. So.
Don't go in there. Natalie.
So our cool cameraman today is the ever popular Jim Gray. He's quite anxious. He's quite anxious to see these get done. So lately, a lot of people have started adding some spices to their meat pies. Generally, it's just some jalapenos, either cut up or just laid on top before they flip the dough over. So I'm going to try to make some spicy meat pies. We're going to use the same stuff that we already did. We're going to do the same exact thing, except I'm going to make some pico de gallo and mix that in with my meat. Once we start out by dicing an onion. Then you take a bunch of cilantro, gonna mince a jalapeno. The peppers and everything I would mince though as small as you can, because you want it to be really well incorporated into the meat. You don't want to just have like a huge chunk of onion or a huge chunk of pepper in one bite. Let's get away from just